Hello, Virgo, Sun, Moon, Rising. Welcome to my channel. It is such a blessing to be here with you, so thank you for being here with me for your February 2024 recap. I'm so very grateful for the opportunity to connect with you today. In the description box below, you will find links to information on personal readings, the Soul Good membership channel on Telegram, and ways to support the work I do here if you would like to explore any of those options. You will also find a timestamp if you would like to jump to the start of your reading. Please do keep in mind that this is a collective reading, not a personal reading, so use your discernment and take only what resonates with you. If you find that something shared does resonate, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, comment below, and or share this content as it tells YouTube that there may be something valuable here for someone else, which is a gift to both this channel and to others as well, and I greatly appreciate that support. February brought for us the meeting of Chiron and the North Node, which inspired us to recognize and accept our wounds and activate our own healing. We were encouraged to forge a new path forward, utilizing the wisdom, knowledge, and intuitive truths we've gained to align us with our higher calling. That being said, we are going to be looking into the overall energy, what realizations or epiphanies February brought for you, how this will impact your journey moving forward, and getting some messages or advice to best support and serve you. So Virgo, let's dive in and see what you have going on here. Please, Father, Mother, Life, Christ, Universe, Spirits, Guides, Angels, our cosmic team, our ancestors, our higher selves, tell us please about the overall energy of February 2024 for Virgo. Okay, thank you. Tell us please what realizations, oh my good God. Okay. Tell us please, how will this impact a Virgo's journey moving forward? Thank you. And what messages or advice will best support Virgo moving forward, please? Thank you. All right. Tell us more, please, about the overall energy of February 2024. Oh, my Lord. Okay. Wow. All right. Tell us, please, what realizations or epiphanies did February bring? Thank you. More, please, about how this will impact Virgo's journey moving forward. What is going on, Virgo? Okay. And other messages or advice. What is going on? What other messages or advice will best support and serve Virgo moving forward, please? Okay, interesting. Anything else we need to know, please, about the overall energy of February 2024 for Virgo? Thank you. Anything else we need to know, please, about the realizations or epiphanies February brought for Virgo? Yes, thank you. Anything else we need to know, please, about how this will impact Virgo's journey? Thank you. And any other messages or advice? All right. So before we dive in, Virgo, I do want to say that just based on the energy that I'm picking up from the cards, I feel like February for you may have felt a bit all over the place. You may have been making some pretty big decisions. Certainly, this is going to look different for everyone, but I feel like these were not decisions that, if this resonates with you, were taken lightly. I feel like, I don't know, it feels as though the mental chess going on, if you will, feels very overwhelming to me. I feel like you had a lot of things coming forward, and perhaps, we're dealing with a lot of things, especially in regards to your mind and, how things were showing up for you in that way, sorting through your own thoughts, trying to figure out what you wanted to do. It just feels very scattered to me. So let's dive into the cards and see if that shows up at all. But please remember to take only what resonates with you. If it's not yours, leave it for someone else. All right, so the overall energy here, we have the law of secondary causation. Stop reacting and start being the person you've always desired to be. Yeah, so it's really interesting, right? Because I was picking up like this mental jousting almost. Perhaps chess was the wrong way to word it. It feels as though there were, a lot, like I said, a lot of these things coming up. And perhaps they were giving you the opportunity to navigate them versus react to them, or to respond to them versus reacting to them. Because I feel like when you just react, there's this energy of essentially feeling this, how do I say this? It feels like you may go through a situation, react to it, perhaps even overreact to a situation, and then find yourself feeling some type of way afterward. Not feeling so good about yourself, maybe even having to apologize, things like this. So I feel like throughout the month, you were encouraged to, or rather were given the opportunity to address anything that came your way with this certain neutrality, right? To really position you in such a way, or to bring to your awareness how things can turn out if you are responding versus reacting, if you're navigating it versus, letting it kind of thrust you about or whip you all over the place. I hope that makes sense. Maybe that's where a lot of that scatteredness is coming from. Almost feeling like you're being, tossed around by the waves of life, if you will. Let's see what else you have here. The law of harmony, dissolve all discordance and chaos. Yeah, right. So again, there's this energy of essentially being in a position where you could have, and obviously, some of you may have been triumphant over this, and maybe some of you weren't. I'm getting some fear coming up as well. Some of you, I feel like, don't like how you look, or not like physically, but rather it's this energy of essentially seeing yourself after going through this very maybe chaotic experience or encounters or whatever it is, and not liking how you look to yourself, how you see yourself after the fact. And so again, I feel like the overall energy of February for you, again, was really trying to put you in a position where you could address these things, where you could maybe do things a bit differently. I'm actually getting, I think it's a quote by Albert Einstein. I could be mistaken. If I'm wrong and please put it in the chat, or pardon me, yeah, in the comment section. But it's something like insanity is doing the same thing again over and over and expecting different results, something like that. And so I feel that, perhaps you've experienced this yourself, where you find yourself in similar situations over and over. And maybe we're asking yourself, like, why does this keep happening? you know, and I feel this was giving you the opportunity to do things differently and to see the results of doing things differently. And I feel like if you did accomplish that, or if you were able to, even in one or, you know, one situation maybe, I feel like you were able to experience being more harmonious, not only in whatever, you know, environment you found yourself in, whether it be by yourself or with others, but I also feel that you were able to experience the harmony of not giving in to those lower egoic drives, right? You know, things like lashing out or what have you. So I really do feel that this brought focus to you, and how you can essentially create your reality by choosing one path or another. Whew, okay. You have here regeneration, rebirth, transformation. Yeah. You know, the thing about this Pluto energy is that Pluto is often nicknamed the destroyer, because things that you can't hide things from Pluto, right? Pluto brings things up to the surface and really kind of throws it in your face, if you will, and gives us the opportunity to see it for what it really is, and then to do something different, to evolve or transform through recognizing the truth of something, those deeper truths. So it's interesting that I got this energy of maybe not liking how you look, or, you know, liking how you are seeing yourself, because I feel as though that's part of that kind of coming up to the surface and really being put in front of your face, like, hey, this isn't a good look for you, right? Now, certainly this can be in regards to other things. And, you know, maybe it's an overall rebirth or an overall transformation, but it does feel that there were some things that were coming up that were maybe not so pleasant, maybe chaotic, maybe created a lot of conflict, or really this sense of discomfort within self. Um, yeah, I just feel that there were some things that showed up for you in the month of February that were really positioning you in such a way that you could transform, that you could stop repeating the same thing. And I feel that this comes from these things that we would maybe like to stay hidden or maybe not to see at all, but those things coming to the surface. You also have here focus, transition, amplification. Yeah. And the thing of it is that, you know, that with this energy coming up with Pluto, you know, and being that kind of throwing it in your face or really forcing you to see things, I feel that's where this amplification energy is. For some of you, you may have been feeling like, holy crap, you know, like this is really kind of heavy or thick or, you know, overwhelming. But I feel again, it's to create that transitionary period, um, to really have you leveling up by releasing things that really aren't serving you. I feel like you were asked to focus on yourself. Okay. For others of you, I don't know why I'm getting this, but for others of you, I feel like you may have been in a situation where there was maybe a lot of chaos or a lot of conflict or a lot of disharmony. And I feel like for some of you, I feel like you realize that that environment was not serving you. I don't know what this is about. Maybe it's a job, maybe it's a relationship. You know, you'll know what it means to you. But I feel like for some of you, there was this kind of realization that, okay, this may not be a good environment for me because I'm always finding myself reacting in this way. I'm always finding myself being kind of triggered or what have you. And I'm not saying that we should be running from our triggers or ignoring them or bypassing them. I feel as though it's just a means of some environments are really not good for us, right? We kind of experience these things where we can only learn so much. And then once we've got to a certain point, it's like sometimes the leveling up, if you will, or the growth or the evolution comes from leaving those environments, making that decision. So, you know, I feel like for some of you, it could have been either or, maybe both. But it's very interesting that this energy seems to be a bit amplified and was asking you to focus on things so you could actually make a move or to, you know, do something different, almost encouraging you into this transition. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here? Yeah. So we have opposition, resistance, struggle, and polarity. Yeah, I feel, again, like I was saying, I was picking up on this even before I turn this card over. I feel as though there are some of you who really were just experiencing this immense struggle, either within yourself, within your environment, or an environment, or both. And I feel as though, again, you were kind of perhaps experiencing all of these things to really show you where you're resisting certain truths, or denying certain aspects, and we're essentially creating more struggle for yourself, creating this disharmony, experiencing like one end of the spectrum to the other type of thing. And I feel like I feel like there are those of you who experience this and are like, okay, I really need to be in a more harmonious, more balanced situation, something that isn't so much chaos. Wow. It's pretty intense energy. Okay, actually, let's go ahead. Let me just rearrange these a little bit. Make sure you guys can still see. Okay. So we also have series here, self-care, wellness, agriculture. Yeah. Again, there's this focus on self. I was picking that up. And I feel like, again, there's this kind of realization, or certain level of awareness that I feel was triggered for you in the month of February, that brought that attention to yourself, and how some things, how do I say, wellness doesn't just include, what you're eating and maybe exercise or how much sleep you're getting, but it also includes the interactions that you're having with other people, the energetic exchanges, and the environment that you're in. And for some of you, I feel like it was brought to your attention that certain, again, environments or relationships or what have you are really not, or really were not, promoting your wellness, or we're not adding to it, right? But instead, we're really kind of, kind of pulling it out from underneath you. Um, yeah, and it feels like there's this energetic disruption. That's what it feels like. Like, okay, so to try to explain this, there are a lot of times that energy, especially when it's calm or harmonious, to me, just feels like it has very smooth edges, if you will. And while I'm tapping into this, everything feels jagged, right? It feels very uncomfortable for me. In my body, it feels very jagged and very kind of chaotic. And so I feel, perhaps bringing this to your attention, um, throughout the month of February, and the energy was, again, really encouraging you to move into a situation where things didn't feel so chaotic. And this, again, could have even been within yourself, right? A lot of times, these kinds of imbalances, or this disharmony or discomfort, can come from the fact that we have trauma, wounding, these sorts of things, lower egoic drives, programming, whatever it is that we're carrying, that isn't in alignment with our truth. And a lot of times that can show up as just feeling all of this kind of chaos going on. So I feel the attention was really brought to you, and maybe how making some certain decisions, or making some changes or what have you, could really be beneficial to your overall wellness, and to, actually, I'm hearing self-love as well. Okay, you have as well, again, with the focus, conceptualization, and strategy. Yeah, I feel like some of you, perhaps throughout the month of February, were starting to like strategize on how you could move into situations, or to create harmony within yourself. It really does feel like strategizing, right? It really does feel like, how can I make things better? What are the factors that are adding to this? Or what do I need to pay attention to? And what can I do to create more harmony? What can I do to create more wellness, or to feel better? And again, like for some of you, this is your own stuff, right? For some of you, this attention was drawn to your own things within you. And oftentimes if we're just reacting, we're just flying off, without really thinking about things, we're saying things without really thinking about them. Those are often responses or reactions that are coming from our lower egoic drives or trauma or wounding, right? It's just things that just come because we're triggered. And so I feel like for some of you, it was drawing attention to these things for you to really acknowledge them, or at the very least, to acknowledge the imbalance, right? Or what is not working, and to really strategize on how to change that. Oh, you guys. It feels like February was kind of rough. I mean, maybe not in its entirety, but certainly at various points. You also have here disconnect, withdrawal, reception. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It does. It feels like, just removing yourself from certain things. For some of you, it is more of this withdrawal where, it's like, I want to figure this out, right? I want to strategize. I want to focus. I want to find a solution. But for others of you, or maybe both, there's this kind of like removing self from certain things. Like I was saying, it feels like, removing yourself from a certain environment, whether that be, a job or a workplace, a relationship, a friendship group, a community, a living situation, whatever it is. It feels like there was this, analysis, if you will, of self and what, like, I need to get out of this. That's what it feels like to me, right? I need to get out of this. I need to withdraw from this. I need to disconnect from this group. I need to, really be given, I don't know. Like I just heard the word freedom. So take what resonates with you, but it does feel that however this showed up for you in the month of February, it does feel as though it was to create some pretty massive transformation, or at least to get the ball rolling, if you will. And I feel like, let's see. Ooh, we have, it's interesting. So I was like trying to hurry. I feel like some of you were like, oh my gosh, let me just figure this out so I can hurry up and get out of whatever this is. Because it almost feels maybe like you had some epiphany or something, and then it started to feel like claustrophobic if it was a situation for you, right? If it was like a work thing or a relationship thing or something like that. I feel like you could have, like, it could have felt like, oh, I just can't take this anymore type of thing. You do have inner temple devotion, tune into the portal of your heart. Yeah, I do feel like, if it feels to me like getting very honest, getting deep, allowing yourself to go there. I don't even know. It's weird, Virgo. It's really weird because I feel like some of you kind of don't let yourself go there with yourself. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It feels like that to me. It feels like, I don't know why. Maybe you don't let yourself deeply connect with what you're really feeling, like on an emotional level. But I feel like for some of you, at the very least, you were encouraged to do that. You were encouraged to connect with yourself on a deeper level, to really tune into what your heart is or was speaking to you. And for some of you, I do feel like this was painful in some ways because it brought forward certain truths. And I feel, I have the saying, and it's not nothing new, but the truth will set you free, but first it's going to hurt a lot. And it does. But it is liberating, because then it gives us the opportunity to, really move in a different way, to not walk around with these rose-colored glasses on. So I do feel like for some of you, this brought forward some things from within, that you were asked to, again, focus on, that you were asked to take a very hard look at. But I feel like the whole point is to try to bring you into balance. These are, Virgo, these are conversations that a lot of people don't really like to have, but it doesn't make them any less necessary, right? This is how we evolve. This is how we grow. This is how we become better people. So I feel that, even if it was quite uncomfortable, it was necessary, and, it is for you, even if it maybe doesn't feel like that. Oh, good golly. You also have unbound, releasing soul patterns, contracts, past lives. So, I mean, it pretty much goes without saying, right? Just reading that card for what it is, I feel like it pretty much sums up everything I've just been talking about here, because it does feel that there have been things that have been repeating, right? It does feel as though there are certain places where you've outgrown your place there, right? Like you have come to this place where you no longer belong in whatever those situations are, where it's time to grow, or you know what I'm saying? So either one of two things, like one, you've outgrown those situations and that maybe became very apparent, or you are being, or have been rather, encouraged to grow, right? Like, hey, we can't keep staying here. This is not helpful, right? This is not moving us along. This is not evolving us. So I feel like some of these things came to the surface and you were asked to release them. You were asked to move forward, right? Which again is where that Pluto energy comes in. It's where that energy of, destroying the things that aren't working, really giving us the opportunity again to evolve, to transform. Good golly. Certainly February seems as though it was an intense month for those of you that resonate with this. Okay, so what realizations or epiphanies did February bring? I mean, I feel like we've kind of went over that, but let's take a look and see. Yeah, the law of truth. Love unconditionally and create healthy boundaries. Absolutely. Abso-friggin-lutely. I do feel like some of these realizations come from truth. Like I said, the truth will set you free, but first it's going to hurt. And I feel like this is something that you may have went through in the month of February. I feel like this is an epiphany, like, okay, the truth is this. Like, and maybe that was hard to say, maybe it was hard to feel, maybe you mulled it over, maybe you were back and forth, right? Maybe you felt very scattered about it, overwhelmed by it, whatever it is. But I feel like once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. Once you, okay, you have this energy of like reception. And what I'm really getting is, like being able to receive truth. And again, once you allow yourself to take the truth in, you can't unsee it. You can't unknow what truth has been revealed, right? It's like no take backsies type of thing. And so I feel like the realizations were the truth, whatever those are for you, right? It's going to look different for everyone, certainly, but whatever that brought forward, right? It opened a door that you could not close, right? It's like once you walk in, there's no going back. So, I feel like part of this love unconditionally, I feel like for some of you comes from this encouragement. Like I was getting self-love here. It comes from this encouragement to love yourself by choosing to see truth and to remove yourself from situations or experiences or whatever, or belief systems, patterns, right, that are not that. And I do feel like for some of you, there was this creating healthy boundaries, because I feel like you kind of, whether that be with yourself or with others or what have you, I feel like there was this kind of, I can't keep doing this, right? And so I feel like there's this boundary that was drawn. Wow. Okay, we have for you as well the law of oneness. Release the need to make anyone wrong and to unify with your truth. So, I mean, we can't make this up. We have law of truth, right? And we have unify with your truth. So the realizations, I feel, were really, really encouraging you to come home to yourself, to come home to your truth, to unite with your truth, and to do whatever aligns with that. And I do feel like for some of you, there was this realization that it's not about, making people wrong. That is stroking your ego. That's all that is. Okay? And I feel like for some of you, you came to this place where it's like, it's not about, the being wrong. It's not about, I need to make someone else wrong. I need to make a situation wrong. I need to, be, what is the word I'm looking for? Like critical, right? It's not that I need to be critical or judgmental of things, other than this does not align with my truth. I can love things that, how do I say this? Right? Unconditional love doesn't mean you have to, for example, if you unconditionally love a person, we'll say, that doesn't mean that you have to be in that person's life. You can love them unconditionally from over here because it's what's best for you and them, right? And I feel like instead of, needing to make somebody wrong or judging or, pointing the finger or anything like that, it's like, I love you, but I also love me. And I'm going to do what I feel is best for both of us. Right? I don't know. If it's a relationship, I feel like it's something like that. But, if it is, okay, so if it's something that you went through within yourself, and this is a realization or epiphany that you had in regards to you, I feel as though there were maybe things that needed to be forgiven. And I'm not saying that, condoning it or anything like that, but I feel like you had to find that forgiveness within you for the situation or and to release that they're wrong. They did this, they did that. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. But it does feel like these may be the realizations that you had last month. Yeah, we have Eros, eroticism, desire, and sex. So again, I feel like this brings forward more so the desire to follow your own heart. I mean, we have tuned into the portal of your heart over here. And then we have this Eros with, of course, the heart there on the card. And I feel as though, again, the realization is I have to follow what my heart desires. What is true in my heart, right? I can love myself unconditionally. And, I think mainstream and programming and all that has severely skewed our ideals of love or even unconditional love, especially when it comes to our relationships and certainly when it comes to ourselves. So, I feel like within your own being, there was something triggered there around, connecting deeply with your heart and the truth that lies there, and what was being spoken, if you will, or what was being shared with you from that place, and pursuing your heart's desire. I hope that makes sense. That felt like probably a lot deeper than what anyone was expecting, but there it is. Okay, you also have quincunx, dissonance, adjustment, discord. So there's that energy yet again, right? You have discordance here. Dissonance. Yeah, I feel like, again, it feels like the epiphanies where this is not working. There are things that need to be changed because this is not working. This is not in alignment with my heart. This does not feel good to me. I mean, I feel like I've pretty much covered this in depth, I feel like, at this point, but again, I feel like what came through for you this month were really just actually a lot of realizations, to be honest, especially around, your truths and the things that you feel. or the things that you know about yourself or thought you knew, perhaps. Yeah, come on now. Can't make it up. Align your life. What is not aligned or needs to change? Again, like I said, I feel like there's been a lot of truths that are like, this is just not my thing. This is not my jam right now. I can't do it. I just feel like it's not working. We also have Council of Light, divine orchestration helpers in the subtle realms. Yeah, I really feel as though if this is true, if you're resonating with all I'm sharing right now, I feel as though you are getting nudges, right? I feel like you are getting the signs. And what's interesting to me is I'm kind of seeing this like the transition from the devil card in the tarot to the tower, which is essentially, the devil card is essentially spirit saying, hey, listen, this isn't working. Your trauma, your wounding, your ego, these things have power over you. And the tower comes in after the fact to say, okay, we tried to warn you. We gave you the opportunity to acknowledge this. And so now, things kind of need to be shaken up. For some of you, I don't know that it necessarily reached like a full-on tower moment, but I do feel like it created a bit of upheaval, especially within yourself. I feel like it created a bit of chaos. And I feel like for some of you, it really kind of flipped your world on its head a little bit, right? And again, it's interesting because I'm not picking this up as like, oh my gosh, my whole world's falling apart. But I'm more picking it up as like, oh, my world is changing in a big way. But I feel like there's a sense of almost peace about it, right? Where it's like, I feel like this is the right thing to do, even though it's hard, even though, I kind of struggled with this a bit. I feel like I've reached this point where this is the right thing to do. So for some of you, I feel like you've also had epiphanies, just around or realized that you are not alone. I'm a firm believer in the fact that we are never, ever alone. We have, guardian angels. Of course, we have the angelic hierarchy, the spiritual hierarchy. Christ, God is within us. There are angels that are part of who we are, so I certainly feel like we're not alone. And I feel like for some of you, you may have had this realization, which I do feel like for some of you is a little bit hard to swallow. Simply because I feel like it's not the most practical perspective to take. It's not the most logical perspective to take. And I feel like for some of you that may have been a little bit unnerving, but I feel like there's a sense of comfort there as well. And for some of you, maybe this move that you made, or this transition that you've made in your life, or at least that's got the ball rolling, has been, this acknowledgement or this surrender, if you will, to what you've been feeling within, the nudges that you've been getting. Wow. This is a lot, Virgo. It's incredible. I mean, I'm someone who looks at these challenges and these things that arise as opportunities to evolve and grow. And even though they may feel a bit unpleasant or create fear, it's a means for us to evolve and grow. And I don't want to say the same. So, I feel like even though maybe it's not the most favorable, it's still very beneficial, right? Okay. So how will this impact your journey moving forward? You have the law of transmutation. Energize the mental picture of your dream. What's interesting? I feel like maybe beforehand you kind of had yourself in this box where I don't know why it feels like this. Maybe you felt as though you were held back. Or maybe it's that kind of cyclic energy that felt like, gosh, I'm never gonna get beyond this. Like there's got to be more, right? Like you may have been feeling that. And moving forward, I feel like that this will impact your journey moving forward, because now I feel as though it's almost like those restrictions are maybe not as prevalent. Maybe you have a lot more faith or a lot more hope. Something like that. And I feel like perhaps moving forward, you will give yourself permission to dream outside of that box that you were once in, right? It's really, really fascinating. Hmm. Maybe you saw where you were holding yourself back. I mean, it happens. We've all done it, I'm sure. We also have the law of gender. Embrace your divine masculine and divine feminine within. Now, whether you are of the male or female gender is irrelevant. We have both divine masculine and divine feminine energies within us. So I feel moving forward, you're probably going to, if you, certainly it's going to depend upon you, okay? Make no guarantees. Oracle, tarot, it's not magic. um, but I feel as though, moving forward, you may find yourself bringing these things more into a state of harmony. And what I mean by that is you may find yourself being able to surrender, be unconditionally loving, be compassionate and empathetic and creative, but also to be, confident and assertive and to have boundaries and to be decisive. These are some, there are many more, but some of those characteristics of that divine masculine energy or divine feminine energy coming forward. If this is something that is really pulling at you, if you feel pinged by that, I would encourage you to look into that more deeply, right? That for example, what the natural or divine feminine masculine energy, the shadow masculine feminine energy, those looking at those polarities and how you can bring more balance there, right? And here's the thing, like you can see, for example, I'll just share a little bit with you. So if you are someone who, let's say, is a little bit more in your shadow masculine energy, that can be an energy that's very like confrontational and critical. It can be avoidant, controlling, aggressive, a bit unstable. The shadow feminine can feel powerless, weak, right? It can feel needy or codependent, over emotional, right? So these are things that I feel like perhaps are coming to the surface for you to heal moving forward. And if you should surrender and allow yourself to, continue to align with your truth, I feel like you could bring both of these into balance. So moving forward, I feel like you may find yourself embracing more of those natural or divine traits, right? Again, where you're kind of exuding the strength, confidence, assertiveness, dignity and focus of a divine masculine, and also embracing, or being more in this beautiful, like selfless, loving, compassionate, affectionate, empathetic, patient energy of the divine feminine. Whew. These are some big energies. They really are. I mean, I feel like it's taking up a lot of space, if you will, in my being. So I do feel, these are not just, I don't know how to say it, not just like little somethings. You have here as well karma, shadow, secrets. Yeah, I do feel like this energy is going to be bringing these things to the surface. I feel like it is exposing, if you will, that the more shadowy sides of yourself. And I just want to share with you, Virgo, that regardless of how saintly one may appear, we all have darkness. Okay, we all have the capacity, every single one of us. It's just a matter of choice. It's a matter of facing our own darkness, facing the darkness in the world, and choosing to embody the light, right? So I do feel, moving forward, this may encourage you to deal with, and to deal with and confront, if you will, your, any karma, shadow, secrets, any sorts of things like that, you may have been carrying. And, this is kind of like one of those endless process type things where, you're never really done. So, I feel like it could be anything. Really, really could be anything. And, as I was speaking on earlier, before we started the reading about that meeting of Chiron in the North Node, this is that energy at play, right? Where we are inspired to recognize and accept our wounds and activate our healing by taking what we learn and using it. Okay, so I feel like this is certainly like somebody hit the green light on this for you. I mean, for everyone, really. But certainly it feels like if you're listening, if you've stayed this long, if you're resonating with this, I feel like this is certainly something that's come to the surface for you. We have a Libra, diplomatic harmony, balance. So there it is again, law of harmony. Yeah, I feel like, again, the more you face these karmas, shadows, secrets, the more you face your own darkness, the more, the more truthful and honest you are with yourself, the more harmonious, the more balanced you're going to be. It's that simple and that complicated, right? I feel like there's this energy also of like being fair to yourself. For some of you, I don't know why I feel this, but you may have neglected yourself in ways. Maybe this is emotionally, perhaps, I don't know why it feels like that's it. Like maybe it's emotionally, period. But I feel like there's this energy of, being fair to yourself, making choices that are fair to you, which is really interesting. I feel like you want to be more in this easygoing state. And so, moving forward, I feel like you're probably going to seek more of that, even from yourself, right? Because I feel like there's been this realization or this epiphany where it's like, ugh, I don't like feeling like that, right? And again, this tends to happen when either we start to outgrow our current state, let's say, or we are kind of nudged by spirit, by our higher self, by God. Maybe you call it something else, but that's what I call it. So, being kind of nudged by God to deal with your stuff. Like, hey, this could really bring a much better experience for you. And so you may be, seeking that out more and more. How shall we? Let's do it like this. Okay. You also have Capricorn. Disciplined, tenacious, resilient. Okay, so I don't know, for some of you, you may have either Libra or Capricorn in your chart. Perhaps, your chart is heavy with either of these, or maybe it's in your more personal planets or something. Maybe not. Either way. But I feel like, moving forward, I feel like you're going to be more disciplined in how, in the way that you react, or rather, I feel like you're going to be disciplined in the way that you show up in regards to situations. Like, I feel like you're probably not going to be, again, this isn't going to resonate with everyone, and this isn't magic, right? You have to do the work. But for some of you, I do feel like there's this more, there's this desire to be more disciplined, to not just kind of, let yourself fall into those lower ego drives, your trauma, your wounding, your programming, etc., where, you are not in control. I also feel, I mean, that's really, really what I'm getting here. It's interesting as well, because there's this energy of strategy, and Capricorn is a very strategic energy. It is a very, very strategic energy. The Capricorns that I know is like, they come at things from this position of, does this make sense? And what are the moves, and, kind of being like prepared in a way, right? It's like looking at the path and what choices do I need to be making? So again, I do feel like there's like a strategic approach to this, because I feel like that deep down, I feel like that transition or that transformation, I feel like it's desired, right? It's like, I want to feel different. I want to experience life in a different way. And I feel like, again, there's this realization that that can only be the case if you're doing what you need to be doing, right? So very interesting. Very, very interesting. I feel like it is going to take you being resilient. It is going to take you being tenacious and enduring because it's not like how do I say, it's not like the short game, right? This is the long game. We're playing a long game here with our evolution and our unfolding. And I feel like for some of you, there's like, okay, this is not just like a one and done type of thing. And I mean, I'm not on socials a whole lot. But from what I've seen, there's not a whole lot of focus on this. There's not a whole lot of focus on, like, this is really freaking messy, and it's not like a one-day thing. Like, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work on a mostly on an emotional and mental level, spiritual level. It takes a lot of work. And I'm not saying that to discourage you, because I feel like you can do it. It's just a matter of, like, this is what's real. Don't have these false expectations that, you can just address this one thing and things are just going to be hunky-dory from there on out. That's not really how this works. So I don't want to sit here and say things that are not true, right? So you also have insight, movement, and change. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, again, if you are somebody who is disciplined in this, where you have, I'm taking this approach, this is what it is, and you're ready to, put in the work to really strategize in some ways, I feel as though you're probably going to gain a lot of insight about yourself, a lot of insight about the world. I feel like you're going to realize even more truth than what you've already uncovered. And I feel like there is going to be tremendous movement and change in your experience, because there's no way it can't. There's no way that it can't. Again, like I said, once you see, you can't unsee. Once you know, you can't unknow. There's no, like, squeezing the toothpaste back into the tube, right? You move differently. You think differently. You see differently. And so, I really do feel that moving forward, it can really, really change your perspectives and create some drastic change in your life and how you experience life. I mean, I hope that it doesn't come off as, like, insensitive or anything. But I mean, even though this has seemed like a lot, at least based on what I'm picking up through the energy, there's so much power here. There's so much potential here. There's so much opportunity here, right? Oftentimes it is right before, like, a huge shift that we experience a lot of turbulence, a lot of chaos, right? And things feeling very, very uncomfortable. So there's so much available here for you if you choose to take what you've learned and keep going. You also have here, how can you mother yourself, star mother? So again, I feel like this is, like I said, it is really bringing the focus to you, right? I feel like moving forward, you're probably going, if this resonates, you're probably going to find yourself being more focused on your own care, your own wellness, loving yourself, showing up for yourself, giving yourself, love and TLC and showing up for your needs. It really does feel like there's more of this focus on, again, like, showing up for you, doing what's necessary in order to create the changes in your life that you want to experience. And I mean, really, if this is true for you, I'm getting this message of, like, it's time. It's about time, right? This is something that I feel like your guides may have been nudging or encouraging for some time now. All right, so the messages or advice to best support and serve you moving forward. The law of eternality. Live like you are dying. I feel like, you know what? I'm going to be honest. For some of you, I feel like this is really just advising you to live in the present moment, right? To not put these gates, these false gates, these false blockages in front of yourself, if you will, or in front of your path by dwelling on the past or being anxious about the future. I mean, there's this whole kind of thing of like, what has that ever done that's been good for anyone ever? Right? Like, that's really what it feels like to me. I feel like this is a means by which you can create more peace, more harmony in your own experience by being very present in the moment. I mean, not only that, but it helps you to be more aware of yourself, right? And to be very intentional about whatever it is you're doing or how maybe you're responding, right? Let me grab the guidebook because I do want to read the message for you from this card, just to give you a little more something to go on. Okay, no, that's not it. There it is. Right, yeah, so here, I was picking this up. It says, you may be experiencing anxiety or regret. Upon drawing this card, your higher self desires for you to awaken to the eternal moment and stop living in the past or future. There is no space or time in the spiritual realm. There is only eternal healing in the present moment. As you let go of the limiting story of your past, you will begin to receive things of the heavenly realm. Right? So, I feel like I was definitely picking up on that. I feel like just reading that just brought confirmation for someone, which I love. So we also have the law of polarity. Interesting. So you have that energy showing up twice as well. Resistance, struggle, and polarity here. The moment that you judge anything as good or bad, you set the universe into motion, right? So, right, like I was saying earlier, I feel like it's about kind of remaining in this neutral state where, I don't have to judge things. I don't have to make somebody wrong. I don't have to do any of that, but I can just remain neutral, right? Because it's like when we give stuff, let me back up a little bit. As human beings, we tend to give things a lot more meaning than what they actually have. Especially if we're looking at the big picture of, let's say, spiritual evolution or development, right? Whether that's people, places, situations, whatever it is, we tend to give it far more than what it's worthy of. Maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but of what it is, regardless, right? And so I feel like if we can play the observer, then we eliminate or significantly reduce the chance of us getting kind of sucked into polarity, getting super attached to things, we also limit or reduce the potential of us, how do I say, of creating more trauma, more wounding, right? That sort of thing. So I feel like there's something there around that. Just again, kind of recognizing the benefits of staying in that neutral space. I'm just going to grab this one for you too as well. I feel like it's probably going to bring, clarity for some of you, maybe for one, but either way, let's see. Page 17. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and read both the interpretation of the card and the message for you, all right? The law of polarity is set into motion by spirit, your higher self, contemplating its own identity. The moment you consider something to be anything other than the I am, universal law is set into motion. Limited identity and limited beliefs within the soul activate and direct energy negatively. actively creating yourself as the unique divine, pardon me, let me read that again. Actively creating yourself as the unique divine positively sets polarity into motion. Intention, attention, initiation, and selection set the mechanics of the universe into motion. This is a sign that you may be judging yourself. Have you felt the burden of work, meeting expectations, or trying to be enough? Getting clarity on your values and getting your priorities straight is important at this time. By drawing this card, the universe is nudging you to take a vacation and give yourself some tender, loving care. Your higher self desires for you to practice being present to the perfection of who you are. Take a break from the rat race. You are an eternal spirit being capable of producing miracles. In order to unleash your divine power, you must let go of the belief that you are not good enough. Right? So there's a journal and action prompt, and maybe some of you would like to utilize this. So it says here, take inventory of the ways you judge yourself. Notice how these limiting beliefs impact your thinking and self-love. Close your eyes and go on a journey within. What do you need to forgive yourself for? Remember, you are divine, right? So again, there's a lot of this introspection, right? There's a lot of this diving deep. There's a lot of this playing the observer, really being aware of what's going on within us, right? And not being afraid to see whatever that truth is. And I think this is really powerful to come through for you, especially in the space of messages or advice, right? Because I feel like these are things that you can actually utilize moving forward. You have here mysticism, spirituality, and escapism. Yeah, I feel like it's important. How do I say? There's something here about paying attention to where you may be, bypassing. And okay. So this is something that I feel like a lot of people have experienced. And especially when it comes to like new age spirituality and things, there's this whole kind of like, we have to be love and light and good all the time. And, like we can really find ourselves on like opposite ends of the polarity spectrum where we've been maybe, I don't know, angry or sad or, whatever it is. And then once we start learning about these things, we tend to like fall way to the opposite end of the spectrum and like, oh, I have to be positive and happy all the time. And the truth of the matter is that's very escapist. That's spiritual bypassing. Okay. When we judge, right, and we make emotions like better or more enlightened than others, it leads to us repressing our true emotions, which just creates more trauma and wounding. So it's important to not be in this escapist energy and bypass authentic healing that needs to happen. And the truth is that emotions are sacred, right? They're valuable in their context and they carry deep, deep wisdom for us. So I feel like it's important to just be mindful. I'm not saying, I don't feel like this is coming through to say you do this, okay? But I feel like it's more along the lines of just be mindful, right? Pay attention to yourself and notice when you may be doing these things because it's very easy to do. All right. I feel like discernment is key. Okay. That's something that I push a lot, both in the public readings I do and those that I do for my channel as well. Discernment is so freaking important. And really, I mean, the only way we can really be discerning is if we know ourselves on a very deep level. So I would encourage that, right? And I mean, to take that a step further, we can only know ourselves on a very deep level if we're being honest. So there's that. We have courageous, regal, and loyal. I think here's the thing. I feel like this is coming up to say it takes a lot of courage, Virgo. It takes a whole lot of courage to face one's self. This is why most people don't. And that's not me judging, it's just facts, okay? A lot of people won't do it because it's really, really hard. It is not, again, New Age likes to paint this picture of, oh, it's so easy and things are love and light and we must love everything and everyone. And, we must accept all, and that's just not how it is. Okay? So I feel like it's important to understand how much courage it really does take to face these things, to really get very honest and to do the work, right? It takes a lot of courage. It's messy. It's a lot of ugly crying, male or female, I don't care. Because you can't, I mean, it's a lot of release. It's a lot of truth. It's hard, right? So I feel like, again, this is coming up to just say, this takes a lot of courage. And I feel like there's this commending of you for taking this on. Again, if you resonate with all of this. But also, if you're someone who's going to remain loyal to yourself, loyal to your cause, right? I feel like that is also being acknowledged, right? That it's going to take a lot of courage, Virgo. And that doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean that it's not for you. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing it. It just means that it takes a lot of courage, right? So, again, with another sign here, maybe you have Leo in your chart. We also have here luminosity, intimacy, hyper awareness. Yeah, I feel like don't be afraid to get vulnerable, to get intimate with yourself. I feel like this is important because there's a lot of this energy of almost, forgive me for putting it this way, but it's the way it's coming through, avoidant of self, right? Like, I don't want to look at my things. I don't want to deal with my things. Like, there's no point. I can't change. This will never work. Why do I need to do that? It just feels like this, very much this difficulty, getting very intimate and vulnerable with yourself and being very, very honest. I'm not saying that this is where you are currently. I'm not saying this is how everyone who's listening to this has experienced these things. But I'm very much aware of how a lot of our programming has been around not experiencing emotions. And it's interesting because as a female, this isn't something that you typically hear about in women. Now, for men, it's a little bit more common to hear. Men are kind of taught to like be tough and like rub some dirt on it and whatever, which I don't agree with at all, because it just creates some very shadow masculine energy. It creates a lot of imbalance, not only for the individual, but for the collective. But, there are women who have experienced this as well, right? You're so sensitive. You're so dramatic. Stop being such a girl, right? So whether you're male or female, I feel like we've all experienced this to some degree or another. And as someone who's been there, who really was raised to rub some dirt on it, to not be emotional, to be very detached from emotion, or to hide them rather, I feel as though it's important to create that intimacy with yourself, to honor yourself and respect yourself, to build trust within yourself. And the only way that you can do that is by honoring exactly what it is you're experiencing, right? Male or female, doesn't matter. I feel like there's also this energy with luminosity of letting your light shine, right? Letting your truth shine, letting who you truly are shine. And in addition to that, there's this hyper awareness, because I do feel like it's speaking about really paying attention, right? Being very aware of yourself and being intentional. I don't want to, I don't feel like, you should be walking on eggshells. I feel like that's extreme. I feel like that's not helpful. But I do feel like, it's important for you to be aware of yourself and to be paying attention, right? Playing the observer. Oh, yes. And to show up for yourself, Virgo, do it today. If not now, when? It's analytical, functional, efficient. There's this message here, Virgo, to not overanalyze or over criticize yourself. This is a really hard freaking process, and it's not going to be perfect. I can promise you it is going to be far from it. You are going to be far from it. Be okay with making mistakes. Be okay with taking steps back. Be okay with falling on your face. Show up for yourself and honor what it is you're trying to do and how much courage and resilience it takes. Okay? It's very interesting because, again, it just, and I also feel, okay, so let me back up a little bit, because I also feel like there's a lot of trial and error in this. Okay? Because there's a lot of figuring out who you are and then adopting modalities and techniques and structures that work for you. For me, just as an example, and I know others like this as well, I started out in the new age, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh, aliens come steal me. I don't belong here. I'm not from here. To now in this, which is several years in the making, by the way. But to this place where I would now consider myself a Christian mystic. And I really connect very deeply with the work of Rudolf Steiner and anthroposophy. So it's a spiritual science. It has a lot of structure to it, where the New Age is kind of all over the place. But when I started waking up, that was really the only thing that made any sense of what I was experiencing. And a lot of people have went through this. Okay. So, I feel like there's this need to not be hypercritical of yourself, or, super judgmental, or to expect perfectionism, or to be super analytical. I'm not saying to not be aware, because it's important to be aware. That's where you create discernment. But I feel like to, get stuck in overthinking, to get stuck in analysis paralysis, to be hypercritical, to be super judgy, I feel like isn't going to serve your purpose, right? Especially if you're paying attention to the more, I don't want to say insignificant, but you're learning, right? You're learning. And so keep that in mind, okay? But show up for yourself, right? Definitely feel like that's encouraging you to do that with your card coming up here. Yeah, trust the niggle. What is the niggling feeling trying to tell you? I love it as well, because you have mysticism and spirituality. And I do feel like you're being, and not only that, but, divine orchestration, helpers in the subtle realms. I do feel also tune into the portal of your heart. Okay, do we have any more? Yeah, okay. So I feel like this is, really encouraging you to connect very deeply with your truth, with your intuition, with your higher self, with Christ within you, and let that help you. Okay? I've had a lot of Virgo friends in my time, and something I've noticed in my time, in my life, and what I've noticed about Virgos is they tend to try to carry the weight of the world on their own. And I feel like while this, can be admirable at times, I feel like it can create burnout. It can create this, perfectionist type of perspective, or analysis of oneself. And when we fail, that can create more wounds. Or when we struggle, that can create more wounds, right? It can lead us to this, I'm not enough, like we were talking about earlier. And so I feel like it's important, or, at least worthy of giving a shot, to let your intuition help you, right? To let it guide you, to let it provide for you some reprieve from carrying it all on your own. Because the truth of the matter is, again, you're not alone. You've never been alone. You are not doing this alone, right? You have these helpers in the subtle realms. You have your angels, your guides, your ancestors, your loved ones, right? Spirit, like God, Christ, archangels, ascended masters. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, that are all working on your behalf. And as far as I know, we have at least one guardian angel with us at all times, right? So you don't have to do this alone. And those entities or those beings, those forces are speaking to you through you. Okay? So again, you don't have to do this alone. And I feel like this is, this is something that maybe you want to explore more deeply. Perhaps you would benefit from something like anthroposophy or more Western esoteric teachings, mystery teachings, because I feel like it's going to feel more, it's got more structure. Okay. As a Capricorn rising, I love the structure. It makes sense to me, right? It's not very like woo and doesn't give you tangible things to work with. Certainly there are many different practices you can look into, but I feel like for some of you that may be helpful, just so you can get this better understanding, whatever path you choose, to get this understanding of, your intuition and the spiritual or angelic hierarchies, to really kind of give yourself something that doesn't seem so left field, right? That is maybe a bit more practical. But again, I do feel like the message here for you is to listen to your intuition. All right. In my experience, now I can't speak for everyone, certainly, but in my own experience, when I don't listen to my intuition, things tend to go sideways. So, there's that. You also have here, get grounded, empaths, highly sensitives, connect with nature. Yeah, I feel like, interesting. I feel like some of you are probably more empathic than what you realize. You probably absorb more than you realize as well, which maybe is why there's been all of this kind of unfolding, right? That came through in the overall energy of February, because you may have been picking up and absorbing these things that simply weren't yours, and just stepping away from that maybe, triggered something where you're like, oh, I feel so much better when I'm like over here, right? Like I'm not with whatever people or in whatever environment. So I do feel like for some of you, this may be some kind of realization that you may be coming to, or need to pay attention to or recognize, dive deeper into or explore more deeply. And it might not be a bad idea to look for some grounding techniques. There's plenty of stuff online. You can find, I'm sure, tons of videos on YouTube and things like this, but there's, earthing, meditating, things like this. So you may want to try something like that. And I feel like there's, like, I'm hearing, like, what could it hurt, right? Like, if you've never done it before, what could it hurt? What do you have to lose? I feel like some of you may actually feel better if you put that into practice, but it's your choice. You also have no. Okay. Wait, postpone, pause, say no. Okay, thank you. I feel like this is really more about, I think it's less about like you being told no. Okay. And I think it's more about encouraging you to pause, right? That way, when you're moving, you're making decisions, you're, responding, these sorts of things, it's intentional, right? I feel like this is probably why we have this hyper awareness energy that's showing up here, right? To be very aware of self, not in a critical or judgmental way, but to be aware of yourself, right? And be present in the moment. And before, you speak, before you make decisions, before you respond to something, it's pausing, being intentional, and making sure that whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is you're saying, whatever it is you're agreeing to, however you're responding, is what you mean. And here's the thing, I try to do this as often as I can. It's a lot it's a lot easier said than done. But you find that you're in fewer situations that you are kind of like kicking yourself for, right? So it's essentially, it gives you the opportunity to avoid some storms, let's say. I think that's a pretty good analysis of that. But, to just pause, and if for some reason you don't know, right? You don't have an answer, you aren't sure, it's okay to say, I'm going to think about that and I'll get back to you. And to, postpone it, put a pin in it until later. And finally, you have soul family. Call in your tribe. You don't have to do it alone. So, I was picking up this energy of, tending to take things on by yourself, to carry the weight of the world. And I really feel like the message here for you is you don't have to do it alone. And soul family, or your tribe, isn't only limited to physical people, okay? To your friends, your family, your partner, whatever it is, okay? Certainly, there's probably more support out there for you than maybe what you are allowing yourself to utilize. But I feel as though it isn't only speaking about like human physical people. I feel like it's also speaking about, the angels that surround you, your ancestors or loved ones that surround you, that you can lean on. Right? I feel like part of this is encouraging you to recognize your spiritual self, your soul self at a much deeper level. And I'm almost certain, Virgo, that this has come up for you in previous readings that I've done. So, if you've been listening to these for some time, I feel like there's probably been this building of this, right? Or you've been encouraged frequently to allow yourself to connect with that spiritual support. Okay. Very fascinating. I love this though. Again, like I said, I know that, and I don't want to sound insensitive or to, make it seem like I'm invalidating the weight of what this experience feels like. But just bringing it through, even though it feels quite heavy or like a lot, overwhelming, again, I feel like there's tremendous potential here for you. Tremendous potential. And there's a beautiful, beautiful opportunity for you to release fear, to bring yourself and your experience into, a more balanced, harmonious place where you're showing up for yourself, you're aligning with your truth, you're honoring yourself, you're respecting yourself, you're developing this trust with yourself, and really kind of establishing yourself in who you are, right? Underneath all the things. And I think that's beautiful. So Virgo, that's what I have for you. I want to thank you so very much for being here with me, sharing your company with me. It's been an absolute pleasure. If something has resonated here for you, I would like to remind you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, or comment below. I love your guys' feedback. It's really, really important to me, and I value it so very much. But thank you again for being here. I pray that this has blessed you in some way, shape, or form, has provided some kind of confirmation, clarity, or some kind of help in navigating your experience moving forward. Take care of your growing, evolving soul. Peace be with you and within you. And I hope to see you in another video.